The sun hung low over San Diego's edge, painting the city in an amber hue that made the concrete seem softer than it was. Luke Harris had just wrapped up his last supply delivery and was taking the scenic route back, something he did when his chest got too tight with the silence of being alone again. He didn't expect to find anyone else out there, not on that old service road that ran parallel to the highway like an afterthought. But as his pickup hummed along, he saw it, just past a battered mile marker and surrounded by swirling dust from passing trucks. A suitcase. Not just any suitcase. It was old, brown, weather-beaten, and duct-taped on two corners like someone wanted it to stay closed no matter what. At first, Luke thought it was another piece of trash tossed from a speeding car, but something made him slow down. There was movement, not from the suitcase, but from beside it. A shadow, low to the ground, unmoving except for the rise and fall of its ribs. Luke hit the brakes, his heart skipping as he threw the truck in park and leapt out. There, curled tightly against the suitcase like it was the last warm thing in the world, was a German Shepherd puppy. He was filthy, fur matted with grime and heat, ears limp, and a strip of torn white cloth wrapped across his face. A blindfold. Luke froze. Not because he was afraid. He'd run into burning buildings before. But this hit differently. The pup didn't lift his head, didn't flinch. He just kept breathing, shallow and slow, like his body had decided living wasn't worth the full effort anymore. Luke knelt carefully, voice low. "Hey there, buddy." The puppy's ears twitched, but he didn't move. Luke reached out, fingers trembling, and touched the cloth. It was tied tight, too tight. When he pulled it away, the puppy blinked hard against the sun, eyes glazed, unfocused. Still, he didn't react. He just lowered his head and pressed his cheek against the suitcase again. That's when Luke saw the note, duct-taped to the top of the case in thick black Sharpie. "Free dog. Too loud." His throat went dry. He opened the suitcase slowly. Inside was a torn blanket, a cracked plastic bowl, and a single tennis ball, cut open and hollow, like someone had tried to turn it into a muzzle. The puppy. No, this wasn't just any puppy. This was Rex, whether he knew it yet or not. Luke sat beside him on the curb. Let the sun burn into his neck. Let the cars fly past without a glance. Rex didn't look away, didn't beg, didn't bark. He just waited. Luke tried everything. A bottle of water, soft words, bits of a granola bar. Nothing worked until he picked up the suitcase. Rex stood. His legs trembled, back paw dragging slightly like he had an old injury. But he stood and followed. No sound, no bark, just trust. Back at Luke's place, Rex didn't leave the suitcase. Not even when Luke laid out a soft towel in the living room, or when he offered chicken and rice. Rex sat beside the suitcase like a soldier beside a fallen friend. That night, Luke called Carly Jensen, a local vet and one of the few people he trusted since leaving the fire department. "You're not going to believe what I found," he said. "He eating?" she asked. "Not a bite. He hasn't even sniffed the food." "Trauma, maybe neurological, but if he's not aggressive, that's a good sign." "He's not anything. He's silent." Pause. "I'll swing by in the morning." Luke sat up all night, the suitcase between them like a secret neither of them knew how to open. At 3:22 a.m., Rex shifted. He dragged his paw, just slightly, toward the water dish. But when he saw Luke watching, he froze. Like he thought he wasn't allowed. The next morning, Carly stepped through the door and knelt in front of Rex. "Hi there, handsome," she whispered. Rex looked at her. Not flinched, not growled, just looked. Carly's hands were gentle but efficient. He's underweight. Paw pads are raw. That leg's not broken, but the muscle's weak. And this... She ran her fingers over his neck. He's been tied down, maybe crated too long. There's scar tissue under the fur. Luke's jaw clenched. And he's not chipped. Nothing? Nothing. As if he never existed. But he existed now. That night, Luke sat on the porch with Rex lying beside him. He placed the suitcase down gently and whispered, "You're not baggage, you know that?" Rex didn't move, but after a long pause, he rested his chin on Luke's boot. It wasn't much, but it was the beginning. A soft wind passed through the pines, and Luke realized something terrifying. Whoever left Rex like that, they weren't just cruel, they were hiding something. Because no ordinary family ties a blindfold on a puppy and leaves him with a suitcase. And Rex hadn't just been dumped, he'd been discarded with intention. And whatever they were hiding, Luke was going to find out. Because Rex had waited long enough. Luke stood at the kitchen sink, coffee gone cold in his hand. Rex lay in the hallway just outside the door, curled beside the suitcase like it was still the only thing in the world he trusted. 2 full days had passed, and the dog hadn't made a single sound. Not a bark, not a whimper. Carly had said it could be shock, but Luke had seen shock before. This wasn't that. This was deeper, like Rex had buried his voice somewhere too painful to reach. Luke leaned on the counter, watching Rex through the doorway. The way the pup flinched at every sudden movement. The way he wouldn't sleep unless the suitcase was within paw's reach. Then his phone buzzed. "Luke Harris?" A clipped voice asked. "Yeah, who's this?" "This is Officer Jill Rourke with San Diego Animal Services. We received a tip about an abandoned dog on Route 72, matching the photo you posted online." "That your dog?" "He's with me now, yeah. I found him." "Did you recover any? Other items?" Luke hesitated. "Just a suitcase." "May I ask what's inside it?" "Blanket. Empty bowl. Tennis ball torn in half." The pause was long. Too long. "We're going to need you to bring both the dog and the suitcase in." "Why?" "The suitcase matches the description from an active investigation." Luke's pulse quickened. "Investigation into what?" "I can't share details. Just bring the items to Animal Services downtown, today." She hung up before he could respond. Rex stirred in the hallway, lifting his head. Their eyes met. Luke reached down, gave him a scratch behind the ear. "Looks like there's more to your story, buddy." On the way downtown, Rex stood with his paws braced on the seat, nose against the window. He didn't whine, but his eyes scanned the passing cars like he was trying to memorize escape routes. The suitcase lay between them on the seat. When they pulled up, Officer Rourke met them outside. She was younger than Luke expected, maybe early 30s, buzz cut under her cap, badge pinned sharp on her chest. "That the dog?" she asked. "That's Rex," Luke said, stepping out. She crouched near the truck door. "Hey, boy." Rex didn't growl. He didn't move at all. Rourke frowned. "You say he hasn't barked once?" "Nothing." They walked into the building together. Luke kept Rex close, hand on the collar Carly had dropped off. Inside, a man in a blazer was already waiting near the intake desk. "This is Agent Colin Mercer," Rourke said. "He's with DHS." Luke raised an eyebrow. "Homeland Security, for a dog." Mercer didn't smile. "We believe this animal may have been connected to an off-the-books transport operation across the border." "That suitcase you found? It wasn't just a dog carrier." He opened a file folder and slid a photo across the table. It was blurry, taken from a traffic cam. A man in a leather jacket holding the same suitcase, but the timestamp was from 2 months ago. Location: Calexico. He was arrested on trafficking charges a week after this image. Mercer continued. But the dog vanished. Until now. Luke stared at the photo. "You think Rex was, what, smuggled?" "More likely trained. At least started. Dogs like this, especially German shepherds, are often conditioned as scent mules or distractions. But we ran his image through a facial recognition scan we use for missing animals. Came back flagged from a defense contractor's report. You're saying Rex was military? Not officially, but someone started training him for something. That blindfold wasn't just abuse, it was conditioning. Luke glanced down at Rex, who sat pressed to his leg, eyes locked on Mercer. Not fear, not confusion, alertness. Mercer leaned in. What's strange is he shouldn't even be alive. Luke bristled. What do you mean? Mercer dropped another photo. This one shook Luke to the core. It was of a shallow ditch, a burned-out vehicle, and what looked like bones. That suitcase was supposed to be destroyed in a controlled fire, but somehow it shows up with a living dog inside it, duct-taped blindfold on, 2 counties over. Rourke crossed her arms. You sure no one followed you when you picked him up? I didn't see anyone. Mercer closed the file. We want to run a few scans. Basic health, behavioral tests. If the dog's clear, he's yours to foster. But if we find trace markers, implants, chemical exposure, he becomes evidence. Luke narrowed his eyes. He's not evidence, he's a survivor. You'll have to prove that. They took Rex for just 20 minutes. When they brought him back, he looked the same, but something in his posture had changed. Tighter, more guarded. His tail didn't move. Nothing invasive, Mercer assured. But we did find something under the fur on his back left leg. Subdermal RFID, not government-issued. Likely private security. So someone was tracking him. Maybe still is. As they left the facility, Luke felt the weight of eyes on his back. In the parking lot across the street, a black SUV idled, engine running. He didn't say a word. Just opened the truck door, lifted the suitcase in, then looked at Rex. You ready? Rex didn't hesitate. He leapt inside, settled beside the suitcase, and this time, his tail thumped just once against the seat. Luke grinned. Yeah, me too. Back at the house that night, Luke took no chances. He deadbolted every door, closed every blind, then opened his laptop and typed 3 words into a search bar. Private K-9 programs. What came back made his stomach turn. Unregulated trainers, combat dogs leased to mercenary outfits. Some never returned. Others were dumped. One headline read, Unlicensed K-9 contractor under investigation for missing dogs. Luke clicked. The article mentioned a company based just north of the border. Guardian Tactical. No website, no customer reviews. But one image, blurred, showed a man standing behind several crates. Luke's eyes narrowed. The man. The jacket. It was him. The same man from the photo Mercer had shown. He looked down at Rex, who now lay asleep on the floor, chest rising slowly, one paw still resting against the suitcase. They tried to erase you, Luke whispered, but they forgot one thing. Rex blinked once, eyes half closed. You survived. And Luke wasn't about to let them try again. Luke didn't sleep that night. Not really. The clock read 2:17 a.m. when he finally gave up pretending and sat at the edge of the couch, staring out the window. The shadows in his backyard didn't move, but his gut told him something had shifted. Rex was curled on the floor next to the suitcase again, but not quite asleep. One ear twitched at every creak of the house. That dog had war in his bones. Whatever he'd been through, it hadn't just scarred him. It had taught him how to wait. Luke ran a hand over his face. He hadn't told anyone, but since they'd returned from animal services, he'd noticed something off. His back door, locked before they left, had been slightly ajar. He chalked it up to nerves. Until now. At exactly 2:29 a.m., Rex sat up. No growl, no bark, just sudden, focused alertness. Luke followed his gaze. The hallway. The office door was half closed, and inside, barely audible, a floorboard creaked. Someone was in the house. Luke didn't hesitate. He grabbed the metal flashlight from the side table and moved low, silent, years of minor league ball and construction work, making him agile for a man his age. Rex stayed close behind, like a shadow with teeth. The office was dark. Nothing moved. Then the closet door eased shut with a soft click. Luke raised the flashlight with one hand, the other on the doorknob. He counted to 3 and yanked it open. Nothing. Just coats, a dusty guitar case, and a whiff of something chemical, sharp and familiar, like cleaning solution mixed with burnt rubber. Rex growled low, ears pressed forward, nose twitching. Luke crouched and ran his fingers under the edge of the carpet. There. Duct tape, covering what looked like a square panel cut into the floorboards. He peeled it back slowly. Beneath it, wires, and something blinking red. He didn't even think. He grabbed Rex by the collar and backed out of the room fast. 10 seconds later, the panel sparked. A soft pop. Smoke. Nothing major, but enough to make his heart jackhammer. Someone had planted surveillance. And maybe more. Luke bolted for his truck with Rex at his heels. Suitcase tossed into the back. He didn't stop driving until they hit the edge of town. By sunrise, they were in the parking lot of a 24-hour diner off I-15. Luke called the one person he didn't want to call. Detective Erin Mallory. The voice answered. Erin, it's Luke. A pause. Luke Harris. Wow, haven't heard from you since, what, high school graduation? Yeah, listen, I need a favor. Not for me. For someone who can't ask for himself. He explained everything. Finding Rex, the suitcase, DHS, the tracker in his house, the blinking light under the closet floor. Erin was quiet for a long time. You know that dog might have been part of a smuggling ring, right? She said. I know he didn't choose that, and I know someone's still looking for him. She sighed. All right, I'm off shift at 6. I'll meet you at the old Elkwood gas station. Come alone. Luke hung up and looked at Rex, who was perched in the truck bed, watching the road like it had answers. You trust people, huh? Luke murmured. Even after what they did. Guess I'm still learning. At 6:18 a.m., Erin pulled up in an unmarked cruiser. She was older than he remembered, but still had that razor focus in her eyes. You brought the suitcase? She asked. Luke nodded. She popped her trunk. Let's see it. He handed it over. Erin unzipped it carefully, pulling on gloves. She stopped when she reached the inner seam. There's something stitched into the lining, she said, pulling at the fabric. Hidden beneath a fold was a strip of waterproof cloth with what looked like a code, G93FRZ71X. Luke stared at it. What is that? Erin didn't answer. She just pulled out her phone and snapped a photo. I'll run it. Meanwhile, you and the dog lay low. If this is connected to what I think it is, someone's going to come looking. Again. You think they're watching the house? They were probably watching before you even brought him in. Luke exhaled through his teeth. They want him back. No, Erin said quietly. They want him gone. Rex suddenly sat up, eyes locked on a distant hill. A black truck had appeared at the edge of the service road, just idling. Windows tinted. Is that yours? Luke asked. No, Erin whispered, hand drifting to her sidearm. Get in the truck. Now. They didn't wait. Luke jumped behind the wheel, Rex already inside before he could open the door fully. Erin peeled off behind them in her cruiser, one hand on the radio. The black truck didn't follow. Not yet. They drove for miles, back roads only, until they reached a run-down hunting cabin Luke's uncle used to rent out before he passed. It wasn't much, but it had 4 walls, no electricity, and no address that anyone still remembered. That night, Luke sat on the floor with Rex curled beside him. Erin slept with her gun under her jacket. The suitcase sat in the middle of the room like a landmine nobody wanted to touch. Luke watched Rex's breathing slow, finally relaxed. Then, without warning, the dog rose, walked to the suitcase, and pushed it gently with his nose until it tipped over. Out fell a photo. Crumpled, torn at the edges. A little girl, maybe 6, smiling, holding a stuffed bear, and standing next to her, a man in a leather jacket, the same one from the DHS photo. Luke stared. "Rex, you knew him." The dog pressed his paw to the image like it hurt to remember. Behind them, Erin stirred. "What is it?" Luke held the photo up. "This changes everything." Rex didn't move, but for the first time since the highway he made a sound. A low, mournful whine. The kind you only make when you remember something you wish you could forget. The storm hit just before midnight. Wind howled through the trees surrounding the old hunting cabin like it was trying to scrape the past right off the walls. Inside, Luke sat by the dusty fireplace, the photo of the little girl resting in his hands. Rex lay at his feet, eyes half closed but alert. Erin stood by the window, watching the tree line. She hadn't said much since the photo fell from the suitcase. But Luke saw the tension building in her shoulders. It wasn't just the cold. "I ran that code," she said suddenly. G93FRZ71X. It's not military, it's civilian. Contractor. Specifically, logistics routing through an old research compound in northern Idaho. Used to be federal. Then it got sold to a private firm with ties to security firms. Luke guessed. Erin nodded. And some black-budget surveillance projects, off-the-books dog training programs, stuff that doesn't show up on Google. Luke held up the photo. "You think this girl's connected to that place?" "I think Rex is." Rex lifted his head, like he'd been waiting for someone to say it out loud. "What kind of program?" Luke asked. "Behavioral conditioning. Memory suppression. Training dogs to perform under stress. Sometimes, testing them in ways that would be considered illegal if they were people." Luke's grip on the photo tightened. So he was part of that? Or escaped from it? Rex stood and walked over to the suitcase again, pawing at the torn liner. Luke helped pull it back, revealing a second compartment. Inside, a digital memory card, wrapped in duct tape. Erin pulled out her laptop. "Let's see what he was carrying." It took a minute to bypass the encryption, but what they found wasn't files. It was video. The footage was grainy, time-stamped 8 months prior. A concrete room, metal table. A man, the same one from the photo, standing over a young German shepherd pup. Rex, smaller, thinner, eyes filled with confusion. In the background, a child's voice. "Daddy, is he sick?" The camera panned. The girl. Same as the photo. Long brown hair, the same bear clutched in her arms. The man looked at her, smiling. "No, sweetheart, he's special. He's going to help people." He turned back to the camera. Subject 93 shows exceptional emotional memory. Locking in the scent test now. The image froze. Luke stared at the screen. That's Rex. And that man, he wasn't hurting him. At least not then. "Doesn't mean it didn't get worse," Erin said quietly. "The footage ends here." Rex gave a small whine, watching the screen. He pawed at it once, then walked away and curled into a ball, his back to them. "He remembers her," Luke said. "That girl. She's the last person he trusted." Erin sat down beside him. "Which means she might still be alive. And if we find her, maybe we can find out what happened. Why he was left with that suitcase." Luke looked out at the darkness beyond the cabin walls. "If she's still out there, she's in danger. They want to bury this." Erin stood. "Then we make them dig it up." The wind howled louder, rattling the shutters. Erin moved to the door and double-checked the bolt. "They might already know we're here. We stay tonight. At first light, we move. Rex didn't sleep. Neither did Luke. They left at dawn. By noon, they reached a public library in a small town called Ketchum, the kind of place no one looked twice at a dusty pickup or a dog with a scar across his shoulder. Erin used an old friend's credentials to access restricted DMV and federal employee records. They ran facial recognition on the girl. Nothing. No match. But the man, her father, flagged a hit. Name: Dr. Charles Henley, former behavioral scientist at Westbridge Research Facility, now listed as deceased. Official cause: car accident. Erin frowned. That's convenient. Luke leaned over her shoulder. No mention of a daughter? None. They sat in silence for a long moment. Rex paced the aisle beside them, sniffing at the stacks. Then the printer beside them whirred to life. A page spat out. A blurry scanned document flagged from a FOIA archive. Luke picked it up. It was a relocation form. Dated 1 year ago. Charles Henley requesting secure transport of dependent minor to a protection program under private care. Name redacted. But the bottom corner had a handwritten note. Rex okay. Reassigned from K9 pool. Will be secured with girl until transfer. Luke looked at Erin. He sent Rex to protect her. Then something went wrong. Just then, Rex stopped pacing. He stiffened, ears perked toward the library's entrance. 2 men in postal uniforms stepped inside. They didn't carry mail. Erin didn't flinch. Move now. They slipped out the side emergency exit just as the men spotted them. Alarms went off. A chase began. They darted through alleys, Rex leading the way. Luke felt his heart hammering, legs burning, the weight of the suitcase a cruel anchor. Erin pulled them into a back door of a bar under renovation. Boards, dust, old bar stools. They crouched behind the bar as footsteps echoed outside. Rex crawled under a shelf and stayed perfectly still. After 5 breathless minutes, the footsteps faded. Erin peered out the cracked glass. We lost them. For now. Luke sat back, breathing hard. This dog, he's been running a long time. Erin nodded. But he hasn't given up. That's not just memory, that's hope. They looked at Rex, who was lying between them, eyes steady. Whatever happened to that girl? Luke said. He still thinks he can find her. Erin reached for her phone. Then we better start thinking like him. The road to Westbridge was a narrow ribbon of asphalt cutting through dense forest. The sky was gunmetal grey, and the air thick with the scent of pine and coming rain. Erin drove while Luke scanned a printed map they'd bought in town. GPS was out again. Rex sat alert in the back seat, eyes constantly flicking from the window to the road ahead. They were 40 minutes from the old research facility. The place had been shuttered years ago, but Erin's contact had confirmed there was still movement. Power usage, unregistered deliveries, and encrypted comms bouncing off satellite nodes no civilian agency should access. What's our play? Luke asked, folding the map. Get eyes inside. Erin replied. Find evidence. Maybe even her. If she's still alive. She is, Erin said with certainty. Because Rex wouldn't stop if she wasn't. Rex let out a soft, almost affirming bark. Luke looked back at him and nodded. Another 10 minutes passed before the forest opened slightly and the ruins of Westbridge came into view. The outer fences were rusted, but a new chain-link wall had been erected closer in, topped with fresh coils of razor wire. Cameras blinked from trees. Signs warned of biohazards and private security patrols. This doesn't look abandoned, Luke muttered. They parked off-road behind a thicket and moved quietly through the underbrush. Rex took point, tail low, body language tight. At the perimeter, Erin pulled a small black case from her bag, popped it open, and began tapping into the frequency jammer she'd brought. 2 minutes of blackout. No cameras. No alarms. She whispered. Luke clipped bolt cutters onto the fence and snipped. A small hole, just enough to crawl through. They entered the grounds. The facility itself was built like a concrete bunker, low to the ground with heavy metal doors and no windows. Erin led them to a side entrance partially covered by ivy. It opened with a creak. The inside smelled like dust and metal. Lights flickered. Wires dangled from the ceiling. They moved quickly through the corridors, Rex pausing occasionally to sniff or listen. Then he stopped dead. Luke nearly ran into him. "What is it?" Rex growled, low and primal. Erin pressed her ear to a nearby wall. "There's a hum. Below us." Luke glanced around. "Basement level?" They found the stairwell behind a half-collapsed door. Erin drew her sidearm. Luke followed, heart pounding. Downstairs, the hum grew louder. Lights were fully functional here, and the air was cooler. They reached a hallway lined with metal doors, each marked with a number. Rex led them to door 14. He scratched once, then sat, tense. Erin tried the keypad. "Locked. Stand back," she said. One blast from her compact thermite cutter later, the door groaned open. Inside was a lab. Clean. Operational. Desks, monitors, whiteboards full of chemical formulas. And in the corner, a small cot with a stuffed bear on it. The same one from the photo. Luke crossed the room. She was here. Erin checked the computer. "There's a local drive. Unsecured. I'm pulling everything." Suddenly, the monitor sparked. The screen flickered and went black. Erin cursed. "They remotely wiped it. Someone knows we're inside." Rex barked sharply and bolted toward the hallway. They followed without question. Halfway down the corridor, they heard voices. 2 men, armed, walking the opposite direction. Erin pulled Luke and Rex into a supply closet. "Sector's hot. Thermal scan shows something near Corridor B." "You think it's the dog again?" "If it is, Command wants him alive. The woman too. Dead or alive." They passed without seeing them. Erin waited 5 seconds before exhaling. "They're hunting us." Luke's jaw tightened. "They knew we'd come." As they made their way back upstairs, Rex stopped at a junction and turned left instead of right. "That's not the way out," Luke said. "He smells something." Erin replied, "We trust him." The hallway led to a secondary room, dark, unused. Rex pawed at the floor. Luke knelt and found a loose panel. Underneath, a small cache, documents, a phone, and a GPS tag blinking a soft green light. The documents were signed by Charles Henley. The last entry, initiated transfer. Rex assigned to guard her until arrival, but if they intercept... The note ended in a smear. "Coordinates," Erin whispered, looking at the GPS. "She's not here, but he sent her somewhere safe." Suddenly the floor vibrated. Then the overhead speakers crackled to life. "Security breach. Level 2 lockdown initiated. All exits sealed." They ran. They reached the fence just as more guards swarmed the compound. One spotted them, shouted. A gunshot echoed. Rex yelped but kept running. Erin and Luke dove through the cut fence. The truck wasn't far. Inside the cab, Luke peeled out, tires kicking up dirt. Bullets thudded against the back as they disappeared into the trees. They drove for miles without speaking. Only when they were far beyond Westbridge did Luke glance back. Rex sat quietly, panting, a small patch of blood on his side. "We're going to fix that, buddy," Luke said. Erin tapped the GPS again. "It's still active. We've got a location." Luke looked at her. "Then we go, tonight." Rex leaned forward and gently rested his head on Luke's shoulder, a quiet gesture of trust, of thanks, and of hope. Because somewhere out there, a girl still waited, and Rex was going to find her. The cabin was buried deep in the Vermont woods, far off any road that showed up on a map. The GPS led them to a dirt trail so narrow, Erin had to kill the headlights and crawl through branches that scraped against the windshield like claws. The air was colder here, heavier somehow, as if the forest itself was watching. Rex shifted in the back seat, ears perked forward. His body was tense, alert. "We're close," Erin murmured, gripping the wheel tighter. Luke checked his pistol, chambered a round. "Let's hope we're not too late." They rounded a bend, and there it was. A cabin, weather-worn but still standing, half swallowed by ivy and shadow. Smoke curled from the chimney. Someone had been here. Maybe still was. Erin killed the engine, and the silence that followed was total. Rex was already at the door before they could open theirs. "Hold up," Luke hissed, but Rex waited, tail stiff, nose sniffing the bottom crack of the door. No bark, just silent intensity. Erin stepped forward, gun ready. She knocked once. No answer. She knocked again. Still nothing. Then from inside, a creak. Not from footsteps. From a floorboard under weight. Erin met Luke's eyes, nodded. He stepped aside and she kicked the door open. The cabin was dim inside, but warm. A fire still glowed in the hearth. A pot sat on the stove, bubbling gently. Someone had left in a hurry, or was waiting. Rex darted in and made a sharp turn to the right, into the bedroom. Erin followed fast. She stopped dead. On the bed sat a girl, maybe 10. Eyes wide, hollow with fear but not surprise. She clutched that same battered teddy bear from the research facility. She didn't speak. Rex padded forward slowly, tail lowering. He stopped a foot from her. She reached out and laid her hand on his head. Tears spilled silently down her face. Luke exhaled a breath he hadn't realized he was holding. "It's her." Erin lowered her weapon. "What's your name, sweetie?" The girl whispered, "Emma." Behind them, the door slammed shut. Erin and Luke spun, weapons up. A man stood in the hallway holding a shotgun. Grey-bearded, tall, weathered. Not military, not a killer, but desperate. "You need to leave," he said. Emma's eyes widened. "No, Papa, they're okay." "Put it down," Erin said, calm but firm. He didn't lower the weapon. "I don't know who sent you, but if it was them, she's not going anywhere." "No one sent us. Rex brought us here. She's been missing. They've been using kids like her, experimenting, training dogs to track or protect them. We found what they did." "I know," the man said. His hands trembled slightly. "I used to work for them." Erin froze. "You were part of the program?" "I was security at the Vermont facility. When I saw what they were doing, what they planned for Emma, I got her out. Faked a fire. Took her here. Been hiding since." Luke kept his weapon steady. "Then why tie Rex up at the station? Why leave him?" The man's face contorted. "They were closing in. Rex followed us during the escape. I panicked. I left him where I thought someone would find him. Safer that way. But I didn't think he'd try to come back." Emma hugged Rex tighter. "He did. He found me." Erin lowered her gun. "They're still hunting you. They sent armed teams after us already. You staying here won't stop them. I have nowhere else." "We do," Erin said. "We have files, witnesses, and Rex. He's the key." The man's eyes dropped to Rex, then back to Erin. "You're serious?" Luke stepped in. "We're done hiding. You want this to end? Help us take them down." A pause. Then slowly the man lowered the shotgun. "I've kept a ledger. Names, dates, off-site locations. It's buried under the floorboards. I figured, if I died, someone might find it." Emma looked at him. "I don't want to hide anymore." He looked back at her, nodded. That night, the three of them sat at the kitchen table, reviewing the ledger. It was detailed, more than Erin expected. Shipment logs, names of handlers, a code tied to financial accounts overseas. It was the smoking gun they needed. You get this to someone you trust," the man said, sliding it to Erin. "And finish it." Luke checked his watch. "We move at dawn. We've got a contact in DC who can open this up wide." Rex lay beside Emma as she finally fell asleep on the cot. In the living room, Erin stood at the window, watching the trees. "We've got maybe 12 hours before they track us here," Luke said. Erin nodded. "Then we'll be gone before they arrive." Outside, the wind picked up, carrying the faint scent of pine and smoke. Inside, Rex stirred but didn't bark, because whatever was coming, he was ready. And this time, he wasn't alone. They left the cabin before dawn, moving under cover of darkness. The man, whose name Erin now knew was Richard Monroe, sat in the back seat of the old SUV with Emma and Rex wedged beside him. The girl was asleep, leaning against Rex like he was a living pillow, his thick fur rising and falling in steady rhythm. Richard kept one hand protectively on her shoulder, eyes scanning the woods as if they might leap out and betray him. Erin drove. Luke monitored the road behind them through the side mirror, his pistol within reach. "We've got maybe 4 hours before they figure out the cabin's cold," Luke said. "Then they'll fan out." "I say we don't wait to be hunted," Erin replied. "We flip the game." Richard nodded grimly. "There's a relay point they use near Rutland. Small airfield. I've seen transfers happen there. If they're pulling out now, that's where they'll go." "And if they're not?" Luke asked. "Then we make them show up." They parked half a mile out and hiked the rest through the woods. Rex led the way, moving with fluid purpose. It was eerie how silent he was, how in sync with the tension around them. They reached the ridge overlooking the airstrip just before noon. From their vantage point, they could see a large white van parked near a hangar. 2 men loitered by the rear doors. Another paced near the office entrance. Then a black SUV pulled up. "That's Whitaker," Richard said. Erin's spine straightened. "You're sure?" "I'd know that bastard anywhere. He's the one who took Emma from her mother." They watched as Whitaker stepped out, flanked by 2 guards. He walked with practiced confidence, barking orders. A few minutes later, a crate was unloaded from the van and wheeled inside the hangar. "Too organized," Luke muttered. "They're prepping for something big." Erin reached for her comms. "We call Mia, now." They retreated down the slope into a cluster of trees. Erin sent the data they had, photos, times, vehicle plates, to Mia Alvarez in DC. Then she waited. 5 minutes, 10. Nothing. "Something's wrong," she said. Suddenly, Rex stiffened. Then he growled. "Back!" Erin hissed. But it was too late. 2 shots cracked through the trees. Luke hit the dirt, dragging Emma down with him. Erin spun and returned fire. Richard tackled the girl and shielded her with his body. Rex bolted, disappearing into the underbrush like smoke. A squad of 4 emerged from the tree line, tactical gear, faces masked. Not police. "Move!" Erin shouted. They ran, zigzagging between trunks. Bullets chewed bark inches from their heads. Rex reappeared to their left, flanking the attackers. He lunged at the nearest one, dragging him down with bone-snapping force. Erin dropped another with a clean headshot. "North fence!" Luke shouted. They ran hard, breaking into the clearing near the perimeter. A rusted-out gate marked the edge of the airfield's property. On the other side was an abandoned ranger shack. "Inside!" Richard yelled. They burst through the door and barricaded it with a toppled file cabinet. For a moment, silence. Then a voice crackled through a nearby radio. "Packages with the asset. Initiate retrieval." "Package," Erin echoed. "They mean Emma." "They're tracking her," Luke said, breath ragged. "There's something on her." Rex circled Emma, nose twitching. Then he barked twice and bit at the hem of her coat. Erin rushed over, searching. There, inside the lining of Emma's jacket, a thin, flat tracker sewn into the fabric. She tore it free and crushed it under her boot. Then everything exploded. Not from outside, from inside. The shack blew inward, floorboards buckling. Erin hit the ground hard, ears ringing. Smoke choked the air. Luke's shout was lost in the chaos. When the dust cleared, the shack was caved in. Emma was crying. Richard was bleeding from his arm. And Rex was limping, but alive, standing between them and the door, teeth bared. Then came footsteps. 3 of them. 1 man in a suit, 2 armed soldiers. Whitaker. "Well," he said, brushing soot from his lapel. That was more difficult than it should have been. "You're not getting her," Erin said, standing with her weapon raised. "You don't understand," Whitaker replied. "She's not just a child, she's proof of concept, the first link in a chain we can't allow to break." "You mean she's a witness?" Luke growled. "No," Whitaker said. "She's property." That's when Rex leapt. He didn't bark, he didn't growl. He moved like judgment itself, straight for Whitaker. The guard reacted too slowly. Rex knocked him off balance, then turned and clamped onto the other man's leg. Screams rang out. Erin fired, hitting the first guard in the throat. Luke tackled Whitaker to the ground, but Whitaker had a small blade. He slashed at Luke's side and scrambled up, bleeding but alive. "You've made a mistake," he hissed. "You think the world cares about one girl, one dog?" Erin raised her gun. "Number but we do." She shot him once, clean through the shoulder. He dropped. Sirens wailed in the distance. Not Whitaker's people. Mia had come through after all. They loaded Emma and Rex into the back of a medic truck that met them at the tree line. Whitaker and the remaining mercenaries were zip-tied and unconscious. Inside the ambulance, Emma held Rex's paw as he winced through a bandage. "You came back for me." Rex gave a low, tired whine. Erin sat beside them, blood on her sleeves, smoke in her lungs. But for the first time in a long time, she felt hope. Because this wasn't just survival anymore, it was justice. The safe house was buried deep in the woods, a forgotten ranger outpost surrounded by frost-bitten pine and silence. Erin stood by the boarded window, rifle across her chest, watching for movement. Inside, Emma slept in a cot, curled against Rex's side. The pup, though injured, refused to leave her. Luke sorted through the hard drive they'd recovered from Whitaker's SUV, his eyes darting across the lines of encrypted data. Richard paced behind him, his injured arm wrapped in a makeshift sling. "This drive is everything," Luke muttered. "Emails, transaction logs, names, most of them redacted, but some not." "Who?" Erin asked. Luke hesitated. "Senator Carl Dane, General Hugo Mercer, and something labeled as Project Echelon." Richard stiffened. Echelon wasn't supposed to exist anymore. It was a black project. K9 modification, psychological manipulation, training children to imprint on dogs that were secretly conditioned for assassination. Erin's blood ran cold. "You're saying Rex—" "No," Richard interrupted. Rex was one of the rejects, too loyal, too empathetic. He failed their aggression trials, so they dumped him, left him tied up with a suitcase like trash. And Emma? She's the daughter of one of the researchers who tried to shut it down. That's why they took her. Luke clicked a folder marked Echo Protocol. A video loaded, grainy surveillance footage, a sterile training facility. Children lined up in front of cages. Inside, German shepherds paced, growling or cowering. Then came a clip of Emma, much younger, sitting with a pup on her lap. "Rex. He remembers her," Erin whispered. "She saved him back then," Richard said, "and he's been looking for her ever since." Before anyone could reply, Rex stood up abruptly. His ears perked, nose twitching. He walked to the door, growling low. "What is it, boy?" Erin asked. Then they heard it. A faint crunch of snow, a branch snapping. Gear up, Luke ordered, grabbing his weapon. They moved fast. Erin ushered Emma into the back room with Rex and locked the door. She crouched by the fireplace with her rifle. Richard stood near the hallway, gun raised. Suddenly, the front door burst open. Smoke canisters rolled in, hissing white fog. Shouts followed. "Federal agents, drop your weapons." "Don't shoot!" Erin yelled. "We're not the enemy!" The smoke cleared partially to reveal armed men in tactical gear. But these weren't Whitaker's mercenaries. They wore DHS patches. A woman stepped forward, rifle lowered. "Mia Alvarez, Department of Homeland Security," she said. "We've been tracking your signal since the Rutland incident." Luke stepped out, hands up. "We have the evidence and witnesses, but it won't matter if they disappear us before you get the truth." Mia studied him. "Then let's make sure they don't." They loaded into 3 black vans and drove through the night to a temporary DHS field base near Albany. There, the team unloaded the files and tech agents began decrypting. Emma clung to Rex as she was examined by a trauma specialist. Erin stayed close, her presence protective, silent. Later, in a secure conference room, Mia played back another recovered video. This one showed Senator Dane speaking directly to Whitaker. "If the prototype bonds too strongly," Dane warned, "terminate both. We can't afford sentiment. The animal is the asset." Erin slammed her fist on the table. "He's not an asset. He's a soul." Mia nodded. "And thanks to you, we might just bring them all down." That night, Erin stepped outside with Rex. The air was crisp, the stars scattered above like breadcrumbs leading home. "You found her," she whispered, kneeling beside him. "Even when the world gave up on you, you didn't stop hoping." Rex leaned his head into her shoulder. From inside the base, Richard called, "We've got names." "Schedules. A transport convoy leaves DC in 48 hours. It's our chance." Erin stood, eyes narrowing. "Then let's finish what they started." She looked at Rex. "You ready to show them what a real hero looks like?" Rex wagged his tail once, low and firm. The war wasn't over, but the tide had just turned. The convoy moved under heavy fog, winding through a snowy pass just outside DC. 6 black SUVs, reinforced and silent, followed by 2 decoy trucks carrying non-lethal assets. But the real cargo, classified documents, names, and a child's fate, was in the center vehicle. Erin adjusted her scope from a ridge above. Snow clung to her sleeves, her breath short in the freezing air. Through her earpiece, Richard's voice came crisp. "On my mark, we only get one shot at this." "Understood." Erin whispered. "Luke, status?" "EMP device ready. Drone is airborne." Below, in the shadows of a hollowed-out barn along the highway curve, Rex lay beside Emma. She clung to his neck, her small body pressed against his fur. Erin had wanted her kept far away, but Emma insisted. "If anything happens," she had said, "he listens to me. He'll know what to do." Erin had seen the fire in her eyes, too young to carry such fear, yet unshakably calm beside Rex. Luke's voice crackled in. "EMP launching, now." A low hum vibrated across the forest, then silence. The convoy's headlights dimmed, comms dropped, engines sputtered. Then came the chaos. Flashbangs erupted from snowbanks, smoke obscured the road. Erin fired a single shot, shattering a driver's side window. Another SUV spun off-road. Within seconds, Richard and DHS agents flanked the convoy, weapons raised. "Federal orders, drop your weapons." The first guard out of the middle SUV responded with gunfire. Erin dove, rolling to another ledge and returning fire. From the barn, Rex leapt out at full sprint, charging toward the road. "Rex, no, wait!" Emma's voice echoed after him. But Rex wasn't waiting. One of the guards grabbed a case from the back of the SUV and ran for the woods. A man in a suit barked, "Secure the asset! That girl is our leverage. Erin's heart skipped. Emma, get down! 3 men broke from the far side of the road, circling the barn. Rex met them head-on. The first fell as Rex clamped down on his arm. The second raised his rifle. Too late. Erin's shot tore through his shoulder. The third hesitated, backing away, only to be tackled by Richard. Meanwhile, the man with the case had vanished into the trees. Erin chased, lungs burning. Snow blurred her sight, but Rex caught the trail before she did, veering right. She followed the sound of his growl. Ahead, the man stumbled, his leg caught in a root. Rex stood above him, growling low, ready to strike. Erin reached them, rifle trained. Drop it. The man obeyed. The case fell open. Inside, documents, flash drives, photos of children with numbers assigned instead of names, and a final folder labeled Termination Schedule. Emma's name was at the top. Back at the road, DHS agents had secured the convoy. Mia Alvarez crouched beside one SUV, checking prisoners. Clean sweep, she said when Erin returned. No casualties. And you were right, they were moving everything tonight. Erin handed her the folder. Mia read it, her jaw tightening. Jesus, this is what we needed. Erin looked at Rex, who sat by Emma again, licking a scrape on her hand. Mia's voice softened. And that dog, he's not just a survivor. He's a witness. That night, in a federal safe house, Erin and Mia briefed a joint task force. Journalists had already been tipped. Subpoenas were being issued. A congressional panel had been formed within hours. In a quiet moment, Erin sat with Emma on the safe house couch. She ran her fingers through Rex's fur. Why did he keep hoping? Emma asked. What do you mean? Even after everything, being hurt, left, chained, he still waited for someone to come. Erin stared at Rex. Because hope is what made him different. It's what made him dangerous to them. They couldn't train it out of him. Emma leaned into her. Then I think he saved me. Not the other way around. Outside, the snow kept falling, blanketing the scars of the day. But inside, for the first time in a long while, there was warmth and hope, and the steady, loyal breath of a German shepherd who had never given up. 3 weeks later, Erin stood before a sea of microphones and flashing cameras, her uniform crisp, eyes steady. Rex sat beside her, calm despite the frenzy. Behind them, Emma waited with Mia in the Capitol's shadow. We were told the program was dismantled, Erin said into the mic. We were wrong. The room was silent. Reporters didn't interrupt, not after the leaked photos, not after the footage of Rex, bleeding and bruised, still shielding Emma in the snow. Erin pulled a sealed folder from her briefcase and handed it to the chairman of the Congressional Oversight Committee. These files show experimentation, trafficking, and psychological conditioning not just on dogs, but on children. This wasn't national security. This was exploitation. Her voice never shook, but her jaw tightened. The people behind this, some still wear uniforms, others sit in boardrooms. Rex gave a low bark. The room paused, almost reverent. A senator leaned into the mic. And the dog? What exactly is his role in this? Erin knelt beside Rex, looking directly at the senator. He's not a tool. He's not a project. He's the one who remembered what they wanted him to forget. Compassion. Loyalty. That's why he's still alive. That's why we all are. Outside the chamber, a crowd had gathered. Vets with service dogs. Families holding photos of lost loved ones. Activists holding signs that read, "Honor the Forgotten," and "No More Silent Pause." Later, at the press conference, Mia stepped forward. This investigation has triggered federal indictments. International partners have requested extraditions, and as of today, the Ghost Directive is being declassified. Journalists gasped. The name had haunted whispers for years. Now it was official. Emma approached the podium holding Rex's new vest. It gleamed with a custom patch. "Rex Honor Dog." She clipped it around his chest, then whispered, "Now the world knows, boy." Rex wagged his tail once and lifted his head high. That night, Erin sat in the small house they'd secured on the edge of town. Emma was asleep on the couch, curled beneath a worn quilt. Rex rested at her feet, eyes half closed but alert as ever. Erin opened her laptop and began typing. "His name is Rex. He was tied to a suitcase and left for dead. But he didn't give up. He waited. He hoped. And when the time came, he saved more lives than we can count. Not because someone trained him to, but because he chose to." She hit upload. The video went viral in hours. It showed Rex's journey from the back road, chained and shaking, to the courtroom steps and flashing cameras. It showed a dog who refused to give up on people, even when people had given up on him. The comments poured in. "I served with a dog like Rex. He saved me in Fallujah. My daughter's PTSD is healing, thanks to a rescued German Shepherd. I never believed in heroes, until now." The last clip was silent. Rex sitting beside Emma under a porch light, wind in his fur, stars above. Peaceful, whole,